Thank you for joining us for the Go Virtual Career Pathways Conference. I'm Brian Glassford from the San Diego County Office of Education, and I will be your room host and moderator today. We ask that attendees keep themselves muted unless asked otherwise during the presentation, but please feel free to use the Q&A aspect during the session so we can answer your questions in real time. And now I'd like to introduce Scott Amiot with the presentation of theater and entertainment in the era of COVID. Take it away, Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Brian said, my name is Scott Amiot. I am the theater technician at La Costa Canyon High School in the San Dieguito Union High School District. And I also am the technical director / production manager for our student theater company that is on campus. And what is wonderful about our program is that we give these students an idea of what it's like to work in a theater, not just in acting classes, but they are learning design skills. They're, they sit down, they go over budgets with me. They all submit purchase orders to ASB to work on our budget for our shows. So that is, in a nutshell, what my position is here at La Costa Canyon High School. I just did part of that. There are just two of us that are working in the theater. There's Brad Golden, who is a phenomenal teacher. He is a director that I am so fortunate to be able to work with him. In the 5 years that he has been here, this school has won over 12 National Youth Art Awards. I've worked professionally, I've worked at universities, and so when I was taking this job here at La Costa Canyon, one of my concerns was that I was going to be doing high school theater. I know there's a connotation with that, oh, it's high school theater, it's not professional, and I have to say that Brad pushes his students, and these are professional shows that we put on here. The houses are always packed. The acting is fantastic. I mean, the production value is absolutely phenomenal here at La Costa Canyon High School. Now, I've been involved in theater almost my whole life. It was definitely in high school that is when I realized that theater was what I wanted to do. But I wasn't just involved in theater in high school. I was lettered in 4 different sports, and I was doing theater at the same time, and I was an honor roll student and an Eagle Scout. I did just about everything. And one of the interesting things about being a, what do they call them, scholar athlete / theater guy, we'd have rehearsals at night that typically start around 6 or 6:30. And my senior year, when I was on the water polo team, the boys team started practicing at 6:30. So for me to get my practice in, I had practiced with the girls team right after school. And they are very competitive. I think I probably would have been safer just practicing with the boys team, but I couldn't do that. So I'd go to school, go to practice, go to rehearsal, do homework while I'm at rehearsal, and then I don't think my parents really saw me very much at all in my senior year of high school. But my mom was really into theater, I think from when she was growing up. She used to tell me a story how she was one of the pick a little, talk a little ladies in The Music Man. And so my parents would take my sister and me to see live theater, to see musicals, to see symphonies playing all throughout my childhood. One of my fondest memories was going to the amphitheater at Mercer County Park in New Jersey, and we'd sit on these telephone-like timbers that were seats and eat Kentucky Fried Chicken as we were waiting for the show to start. And we'd watch the vocal warm-ups, and that's where I got introduced to musicals like The Music Man and Carousel and Pirates of Penzance. And what's really cool down here on the right-hand side of your screen, you're seeing a time-lapse video of putting together a set. And this is typically how it is. When you're putting things together, it would be me and a group of my theater technician students that want to be involved. Sometimes parents even come and help us put everything together. So it's definitely a industry that it takes many, 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 many people to create. And a lot of times people forget that technicians are an integral part of it. It's not just the actors on stage. And so I went to San Diego State University, and initially I was going to be a business management major. That was my idea. That's what I had declared when I was applying. And after we closed our spring show, our spring musical in high school, I told my parents that night that I was going to become a theater major, and I no longer wanted to be part of the business department. My dad says this never happened, but I do remember having that conversation. And while I was in college, I got my degree in performance, but I took a lot of theater tech design classes, lighting, set construction. So I did have that background. I also worked for a general contractor when I was in college, and so that's when I got to learn the tools of the trade. This photo right here was when I was the interim technical director for the Conrad Performing Arts Center in La Jolla. I helped open that facility. It was 2 years ago. While I was doing that, I was also working as the associate technical director at the University of San Diego. After college, I started a theater company with some of my friends. It was an absolutely terrifying time of my life, but every morning I woke up happy and scared. And I think that's how most entrepreneurs are when they wake up, but I learned a lot. And our mission was to create a new generation of theater goer. We were producing works that dealt with the issues of our target audience, which would be 18 to 35, be it social problems, economic problems, dealing with life. And I think we did that relatively well. Now, I'm no longer with that theater company, and I learned a very important lesson. Democracy is a great way to run a country. It is a horrible way to run a business. Now, that's not a quote of my own. I believe Gary Sinise said it. And for those of you that may not understand what I'm saying, one voice, one vote, one person, one vote, that's great. That's how we should be governing ourselves. But you need to have, in a business, you need to have someone tell you, no, you need someone that's going to be able to make the decisions for everyone. And we found that out the hard way. The picture that you see right there, that is of Margin of Error, written by a San Diego playwright. That was the world premiere. A lot of these photos you'll see, there's going to be real images, and then you'll see renderings. And I just like to compare how well I built the set to look like the initial design by our designers. After I left the theater company, I started working at the Maritime Museum of San Diego, where I got to teach history. I was in the living history education department. We would take kids back in time, be it in the 1860s or the 1775, the eve of the revolution. It was a wonderful time for me to continue to act and also to teach students. And from there, then I went and started working for the Museum of Contemporary Art of San Diego, where I was in charge of a 500-seat theater. Go ahead and laugh. That is me as a pirate. That was one of the jobs that I had while I was basically working in the gig economy. This helped supplement in between shows that I was building, in between different shows where I was just working as an electrician, hanging lights. My love for theater is always there. It's always going to be there. And here I got to act and be silly and have fun. And while I was doing that, I was also hanging lights for local theater companies. I was building sets. I was working at the Museum of Contemporary Art. I worked at Legoland as a pirate. That other photo was on a ship called Pirate Ship Adventures in San Diego. The ship is now in Hawaii and it's no longer with us. But we'd go on bay tours, take children out for their birthdays. We had water cannons that would shoot out. We'd attack quote unquote boats. We'd toss a treasure chest out the back and then fish it back out and give every kid gold. The picture on the right is when I was working for the Maritime Museum, and that was also a birthday party for children right there. And I mean, it was such a wonderful time doing all of that. After I left the Museum of Contemporary Art, I started working at the University of San Diego. I don't think I would be in the position that I am today if I hadn't taken that job. I started off as an assistant technical director, and then I moved up to associate technical director. We were a very small theater department. I was in charge of building all of the shows. I was the shop foreman. I was the master carpenter. I was the master welder. I was the master electrician. Those 3 years at University of San Diego was basically, it was like a master's program for me. It was myself and the production manager. That was our technical team. We also had a costume shop, and I'd go in there and help. It was just an absolute wonderful experience. And because of that, I am now able, thank you. I'm now able to share my experiences with younger students. It's very interesting working with high school students from being at a university level, going down to high school. At the university, everybody that was in those theater classes, especially the technical classes, was there because they had a passion for theater. These students were self-driven. They were there because they wanted to be there. They weren't there because they had to be there. In high school, it's a little different. In high school, these students have to be here. And so they choose an elective sometimes, and that happens to be theater. And it's difficult when you have a group of students where half of them want to be involved and want to learn, and half of them are just there because they have to be. I think that Brad and myself bring a lot of passion to what we teach, to what we instruct. And I think that shows in our students' ability to want to be in this class. So I think that our program here is just absolutely wonderful, and it is all because of Brad Golden. When he first started working here, he told me that they had maybe 5 or 6 lights that actually worked, some that worked sometimes, some that didn't. And over the past 5 years, he has fundraised, and the students have purchased, I think we've got 8 moving lights here. University of San Diego 2 years ago finally got 2 moving lights. So if that gives you an idea of what kind of fundraising is going on here and how these students are excited to learn behind the scenes. We have student directors, we have student production managers that are working with us, all student crew. Which actually is even more amazing is that aside from the stage manager that we had for Chicago, we had an entire female run crew. And I love it. I absolutely love it, because some of the best theater artists technical artists that I've worked with are women. And I think that, a lot of times they get looked over for positions, but they're phenomenal designers, electricians, stage managers. The list can go on and on and on. And that's what I love about this program, is that we've got these women, these young women want to be involved. They want to learn. They want to, some think that they want to go and join the union directly out of high school, which I think is phenomenal, that they're not afraid to do what they want, to follow their passion. Chicago was the last show that we did here. It was my first show here at La Costa Canyon. I started 3 or 4 days before we opened the show. I was running 25 microphones with students that I had no idea who they were. So fortunately, we had a student that was assisting me with sound. And so she would help me figure out who was on stage so I could properly mix the mics. When you have 25 microphones, it can get a little scary. We were then going to do a show called A Monster Calls. It would have been a United States premiere. I think it's only been done once or twice in London. We were in the process of building the set. It was going to be a giant triangle. And by giant, I mean it was going to be 18 feet tall and 27 feet long and 8 feet wide. And as the frame was installed, we found out that we were going to be going on a small hiatus because of the pandemic. It was at the time, I'm sure for all of you, you remember that it was very unclear how long we were not going to be on campus, how long things were going to be on hiatus. And it got to the point where Brad and I discussed, and as painful as the idea was, we were gonna cancel the show. A Monster Calls deals with a young man who is going through the painful process of losing a parent to cancer. And we thought that the subject matter, as heavy as it was, would not be wise for us to have our students dealing with this show, because it's very emotionally heavy, as well as dealing with what was going on, with the uncertainty, with the misinformation, no information given. So it definitely put everything to a halt for us, as well as the rest of the entertainment industry. I'm fortunate enough that I work for a school district. I'm basically an employee of the state. A lot of my colleagues and friends that work in entertainment don't have that luxury. They are without work right now. If I was on that side, chances are I might be homeless at this point. I won't know where my next paycheck is coming from. Unemployment doesn't cover enough. And so it's been really difficult to watch my brothers and sisters in theater suffer the way that they are. Now, you young artists out there may think, oh, well, does this mean that I shouldn't get into the arts? I shouldn't get into entertainment? And I'm gonna have to say, no, definitely follow that passion, but just realize that things are going to change. Things are not gonna be the way they were. So I would suggest that perhaps get more into the video side of things. Get into learning to mix microphones, to mix sound, to design sound, to create sound effects. One of our plans right now is to actually do a radio show. Well, let me change that. We are no longer going to be doing a radio show because it was going to be way too much of a task to be able to do it as well as we wanted to. So what we are planning on doing is having any students that are interested record stories, fables, children's books, and so they can work on their voice acting skills. Our other students can work on their sound mixing skills. And then we are going to upload these and make these free for anybody that wants to listen to them. So basically, small podcasts, I guess, is what you could consider it. I just think that we need to be creative. Creative people, they tend to go through withdrawals of being able to create art. And I think this will help feed my soul, as well as Brad and our students that are getting antsy, that want to work on things, and they haven't really been given an avenue to do it yet. So I think the idea of creating these stories or recordings is going to work really well to help feed the soul of our students. But it's also going to be a lovely product for parents and children, because if you're working from home and you have your kids are also doing distance learning, being able to have them listen to a short story for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes, that parent is going to be able to relax. That parent is going to be able to go do what they need to be able to do. It's going to give them time to even just like center themselves. And I want to be able to give this back to the community. Our initial idea was we wanted to do a radio play of A Christmas Carol and do it in a 1950s style. We're going to push that till next year. And once again, we're going to make that free, because right now we need to take care of each other, and theater and the arts, that's what we do. We express ourselves. We help each other. We lift each other up. I mean, you see these photos down here of them fumigating these theaters. Theater's been around for centuries. It's not going anywhere. It's just going to be a little different than how it is, how we remember it. Let's see. Yeah, let's go on a tour. That sounds like a great idea. Right now, you are actually viewing me on our stage. I believe this is a 500-seat theater. Let's get my video to flip around for y'all. There we go. Now, I don't know who designs theater facilities, but it seems as though that they have a difficult time remembering that scene shops are an integral part of any theater facility. Our scene shop is more of a tool storage space. And as you can see in the back, there are double doors. Those double doors open into the music room. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have ever been in a scene shop before, but it gets quite loud. Why you would want something that is going to be loud facility next to a music room where they need, I would say, peace and quiet. The same thing happened at USD. My shop was right next to a choral room, and I always felt bad because I needed to build things, but I mean, they're holding classes. It's unfortunate how things aren't necessarily thought through. But what we did and what we have is a lot of portable tools. So I'll bring this saw right here. This is a compact compound sliding miter saw, and we'll build here, or we'll take it outside and we'll build outside. So there are ways around things, obstacles, such as having a small shop that really doesn't operate as a shop. So this is the main stage. This gets rented out, I would say, quite frequently. We did have a youth theater company in here. That was the last thing that was performed on this stage in January and February. They did Matilda. And I'm going to take you into the black box now.
Sorry,
Black
Scott.
box stage is a very, okay. You have me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, cool. So this black box right here, right now we're waiting to hear back about a grant, a substantial grant that will help us turn this facility into a wonderful secondary performance space. We have a grid that needs to be extended and needs to be rehabbed. We're hopefully going to get some more lights so we can use this area not just as a performance space or a rehearsal space, but also as a lighting lab. That way our students can get their hands on lights. They can see how to manipulate color and shape and how that affects theater and what the audience sees. This space, we're also hoping to get some risers in here, so that way we can do theater in the round, which means that you have audience members on all sides of you. Or we can do a thrust space, which would be on 3 sides. We can also use this as a dance room. We're hoping to put some mirrors on this wall, so that way during rehearsals, students can see themselves, and so they can adjust how they are performing or how they are moving to match everyone else. We are also hoping to get an outside stage. Well, we have an outside stage, but we're hoping to get some equipment to actually turn it into a performance space. the back of the theater now and look at our sound and light boards. I'm sure most of you are used to seeing the operating boards in a booth. We have a booth, but that's not where the boards live. They live just in the back of the theater, which is phenomenal for audio because you need to be able to hear what the audience hears. And this is the best place to do it. So if you ever see a soundboard sitting in a theater house, you probably want to sit close to it because you're going to get the best audio possible because the sound engineer is mixing to what he hears. We also have what we call a Frankenstein light board. As you can see, it's just a computer. ETC makes they call it a puck, a Nomad puck, and it's a software in which you can control all of the lights. Now, ideally, the light board would be in the booth, and we may move it in there. That way, when the stage manager is in the booth, sound doesn't bleed out into the audience. So they can have a conversation, so they can talk, they call cues. It's much better if you were enclosed and away from those enjoying the show. So I'm going to switch my camera back around. I did fly through this presentation. I apologize. I think one takeaway from my job that I've learned is that there's a stigma behind theater technicians, that we're salty, that we're disgruntled, that we don't like to work, that we're lazy. And for some, I'm sure that is accurate. But if you want to succeed in this industry, and I think it's probably applicable to most industries, have a positive attitude. Don't be a yes man, but take care of things. Your actors, the people that are requiring you to do things for them, are already hesitant to ask for it. So don't make it more difficult. Be positive, and when you are a technician that is grounded, that is creating solutions, that is fixing problems, the chances of you getting rehired is phenomenal. So I think you can take that attitude into just about every walk of life. And if there's any other piece of advice I would give, some young aspiring actors or theater technicians or teachers or anyone listening to this, is be kind. A little bit of kindness goes a long way. Be kind to other people. Be kind to yourself. That's the number one thing. Be kind to yourself. And you'll be surprised how life can get better. So thank you all for listening to me. I will stay on here and answer any questions if you have any.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Wonderful presentation. Wanted to first thank you for joining us and giving us a tour of your wonderful facility you have there. I was hoping that you might be able to touch a little bit upon the program, the theater program in general, and how it can be utilized for students to learn some of the intricacies involving business and running a company.
Yes, absolutely. So our theater program, we let the students do quite a bit, and I think that's really important. Hands-on experience is better than reading a book or watching a YouTube clip on it. They're learning some business management skills. They're learning how to create a budget, how to request money, how to fundraise, how to market. Our parents are very much involved in the theater company here, which is wonderful that we have parents that want to be involved with their children's learning. And the skills that some of these students are acquiring aren't just applicable to theater. They're the transferable skills. They're showing up on time. They're having a good attitude, being properly dressed. All of these things are important life skills, except they're learning it from a different point of view because they're learning it as a theater technician. They're learning it as a young artists, so they may not realize that they are acquiring these skills that will be beneficial to them in life. And did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have another question, more going back to the gender roles and some of the issues that kind of fall into that for women working in the tech side of the theater. What exactly would LCC and your theater program specifically, how are you encouraging female students to join into the tech side of things?
Oh, that's man. I think it's one of those things that's just inherent in Brad and myself to be inclusive of everyone and encourage everyone. I don't think there's anything specific that we do to encourage our young female students that are interested to try. I've only been here for a short period of time. I do know that the culture here on campus is wonderful, and it is an inclusive one, especially in theater. Our theater program is a safe place. Brad Golden's classroom, the black box, he uses that as a classroom. Every day during lunch is packed with kids. It's a safe place to be, and I think for some it's almost like I don't want to say a rescue because that's the wrong word, but a safe haven for them to come and feel like they can be themselves. At USD, we had a lot of female students as well. Most theater art programs, you will realize in colleges, have a lot more women than men that are involved in them. And I think it's just, yeah, we just encourage and are inclusive, and we let them try stuff. And that's the most important thing for a student, is to get their hands on tools and microphones and costumes and makeup. I mean, that's the one difficult part about the situation that we're in of the distance learning, is that they don't get the tangible experience right now. You know, it's we get them. There was there's a software called SketchUp, and it's used for drafting. And we had a 1 month free subscription through the school. So we're teaching the students how to draft. Last spring, I created hand drafting videos. And so we taught them how to hand draft and what a rendering is, and the process in which a set designer is going to use color, and when initially, a watercolor will do just fine. You can do a watercolor painting, and because it's giving you a general idea of the colors that you want to use and where things are going to be on set. Eventually, you need to have more and more detailed drawings. And for me, it seemed like one of the best ways to keep the students engaged. And when they are drawing and when they're drafting, it also is an escape, because you're being creative, but you're focusing. And I mean, I know when I'm drafting, sometimes 3-4 hours go by and I didn't even realize it was, that time was flying by that quick. So I mean, right now everything's difficult, but we are trying to be as supportive of our students as possible, regardless of their gender. When we had our back to school night in January, I think it was, or not, it wasn't a back to school night. We're in an open district. So if you live in the district, you get to decide which school you want to go to. And so it's a lot of 7th and 8th graders would come to this. And that was one of the things that I loved telling them, was that we had an all-female run crew on stage for Chicago. And that just to let them know that anything is possible.
Thank you. That's a very nuanced response. Thank you for that. And getting more into the, I understand that the COVID economy has really hit the arts and entertainment industry very, very hard. But once everything does start getting back to normal, and students are able to start entering that career pathway again on a more substantial basis, what kind of compensation can they expect on like entry level type of positions working in either theater company or potentially working for a school or anywhere else in the industry?
Uh, that's a great question. A lot of theaters don't have money. That's typically how this industry works. It is a business model that has been failing for centuries, yet we're still here. To start off, when I started off as a theater electrician, climbing around on ladders and in grids hanging lights and running cable, I was making, I think, $12 an hour. If you want to be able to make a living, I would suggest look into going into the union. The union's going to protect you a little bit more. They're going to make sure that you're getting paid well. As far as getting into the higher levels of theater technician, like if you're going to be a technical supervisor, you're probably going to be upwards of $20 an hour. You're going to be a theater the technical director. Lower end is going to be about $60,000 a year. It definitely can go up to to $120,000 a year, depending on the company that you're working for. As far as actors go, the market is so saturated with people that want to be an actor that it shows in the amount that theaters are willing to pay. A standard theater actor stipend would be $1,200 for a 6-week run. For the smaller theaters, for larger theaters, like obviously in San Diego, if you're working for the Globe, you're going to get paid a lot more. If you're working at a community theater, chances are you're not getting paid at all. They'll just say that you're, like anything else, you'll be paid in experience and Papa John's pizza and Red Bull. It's not really, they're passion projects. And same thing with film. A lot of film out there, if you're working as a grip, you're doing it to get experience. It's fun. I've done some lighting design work for film, and it was a fun experience. Film is definitely not the avenue that I normally work in. I have been in films before, but working on them, it's a fun experience. But right now, I haven't been able to make much money doing it. I think if you want to make a living in the entertainment industry, in theater, go to the tech side, because there's always work. If you are good at it, you'll be able to, if you call it gig economy, you look at your calendar and you try and make sure you have work for the next 3 months, 4 months, and you just keep on lining everything up. So if you want to make a living in theater, I would say get on the tech side, become a designer, master certain skills like welding. Welding is one of those skills that the majority of people don't know how to do, and is a very good skill to have as a theater technician.
So this is more towards the attendees. We got one last question, but if anybody else has any further questions, you can click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and go ahead and enter those so we can continue on with Scott here. But one last question from the audience would be in line with Broadway. Do you have any interest in joining Broadway? And if so, what would be the most ideal play that you would love to work on?
Oh, I mean, of course, who I don't know anybody involved in theater that wouldn't want to work on Broadway. I think it's just the creme de la creme, I believe is how they say it. It's what show would I want to work on? And now that is a great question. There's so many plays that I've read throughout my life that have I don't know if I can just pick one, but I will tell you this, Brian, that one of the draws to being an actor was that you don't have to choose. Like, if you want to, you can be a businessman. You can be a doctor. You could be an athlete. You could be a mathematician. You could be a scientist. You could be a police officer. Anything. You could be a dog. You could be a snow monkey. I was a snow monkey once. that's, for me, that's the draw of theater, is that the possibilities of who or what you can be are completely endless, and you don't need a 4-year degree. You don't need your doctorate. You just need a script and an imagination, and there you are. So to pick an actual play, oh man, I don't know. You stumped me, Brian. You stumped me.
Well, that's perfectly okay. But that is the conclusion of the questions that we have available for you, Scott. So we wanted to thank you for your time and your participation in our event today. I think we learned a lot about La Costa Canyon High School's theater program, and I think the students of San Diego County are going to have a better understanding of what theater program is offering right now. So thank you so much for your time, and we will definitely see you soon.
Thank you for having me, Brian. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, everybody.